That said, there is a monumental event which has occurred. We found that it's actually a really massive breakthrough. We contacted the Smithsonian. We contacted Ripley's Believe It or Not. We contacted, the Guinness Book of World Records. Also, your local librarian, to let them know that one of the most crucial things in history has occurred. The left has finally found a group of refugees that they despise. After saying that, quoting the Statue of Liberty, you're tired, you're poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. After lectures about how you hated refugees and how only they were truly moral and wonderful, because after all, they think that the United States should be shared with any oppressed group out there at all. They finally found out that that only applies to people whose skin tones are appropriately dark enough. By the way, we've seen this before. We've seen the New York Times and other groups complain that certain refugee groups into the country were a little too Christian, that perhaps certain Hispanic individuals that were being allowed to stay were a little too white. They were the wrong kind. They're Cuban. See, they're white Hispanic. It's not the same. That doesn't mean they're Hispanic. They're not the right shade of brown. Dang it. That's what the left had lost their mind over. Well, it's happened again. Because the South African government, and I do mean the government, not just a group in the country, the South African government has announced through various ways and means and appointed certain individuals to power and pardoned certain individuals in their court system in order to go after Dutch descendant white people in South Africa, and really any white person in general. In fact, there are stories coming out of South Africa of people who just look white, just being attacked. Why? Well, because apartheid in the 90s, and even though a lot of the people who were being attacked weren't even alive during apartheid, much less have anything to do with it, apparently that's totally okay. The chief slaughterer of people over in South Africa, by the way, not just white people, but people who are black and are various shades of brown from all kinds of countries around the world, introduced Julius Malema, the commander-in-chief of economic freedom fighters and a revolutionary activist for radical change in Africa. So like every discount communist, he's got this little red beret on and he's going to get all fancy. And the things he has to say are just peachy.
The mayor of DA in PE is a white man. So these people, when you want to hit them hard, go after a white man. They feel a terrible pain because you have touched a white man. Not because Mashaba and Soli will not be touched. They will be touched, don't worry. But we are starting with this whiteness. We are cutting the throat of whiteness.
Okay, so in South Africa, it's totally fine, no problems whatsoever. Hey, don't worry about it. If you feel as though you don't like white people, the left has made all of the excuses for them. They said, well, it's a very complex situation. There's a lot of deep and serious pain. And, hey, that's just colonialism had its effects and blah, 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 blah. Again, the guy's openly saying that it's just this group of people, this color. Not individuals who have done these specific actions, just white people are bad. Or black people are bad. Brown people are bad. Asian people are bad, whatever. And this kind of nonsense seeps into the South African judicial regime as well.
I'm willing to condemn murder, more than willing, but not of white people.
Oh.
I'm not going to play in the hands of white supremacists.
This is a guy who thinks that if you condemn the murder of a white person, then you're playing into the hands of white supremacists, and acts of violence against people in South Africa who happen to be white are increasing at a commensurate rate. And by the way, all around the world, there are acts of violence that are committed against all kinds of people, all different colors. And the Trump administration, unlike the Biden administration, who threw open the door for anyone who said they were coming from a country where they were persecuted, even if, they had a history of affiliation with MS-13, like every Maryland father. The Biden administration threw open the doors, but the Trump administration has reached out to a few particular groups of people, like the United States has done historically throughout its history, has reached out to current active acts of persecution happening in countries. The United States has said this group of people, for example, in Germany or in France or in South Africa or in Central America, in one of these Central American or South American countries. This is a group currently being targeted. So members of this targeted group may come to the United States, especially if they are willing to assimilate. And so 54 Dutch descendant farmers made the jump over to the United States. And it's not, again, as many comments have pointed out, it's not military-aged men, military-aged single men like a lot of migrants over. It's just families holding American flags, not a flag of the country they just came from, but a flag of the United States. And a lot of people are, really happy with that. And the left has decided that this means this is the true marker of Trump's evil, of his racism, because there's a little girl waving an American flag. Ah, the horror. Here's MSNBC's Donna Edwards chewing on her own elbows.
Well, in my view, what makes it different is that they are white South Africans. The president, in my view, has not hidden his racism behind a bushel. In fact, in his policies, whether it's removing government workers or, in this case, admitting white South Africans while denying refugee status, asylum seekers from other countries, principally Central and South American and Black nations to come into this country. And so I think that, this policy, while it's not surprising in this action, really speaks of the underlying message in this that disrespects and shows disdain for people of color while embracing these Afrikaners now, and also expediting the process by which they can come into the country while denying that same process to other refugees.
Again, the hilarious thing out of this entire interview, this rant that she went on, is suggesting that the Trump administration is like opening up illegal immigration for white people. In the countries that the Trump administration is allowing refugee relocation from, there are two things going on. Number one, there is active persecution against a minority group from the government. That is not happening in Venezuela. That is not happening in El Salvador or from Belize to Argentina. It's not happening in South America and Central America. It is happening in places like the United Kingdom and in places like South Africa, where a minority group is being targeted by the majority for perceived systemic ills. It has nothing to do, he's always banning refugees from black countries. First of all, no. And number two, banning dudes in their 20s from coming into the country after coming through the border illegally and then saying, oh, I can't go back home because this gang I'm totally not affiliated with will kill me. Yeah, not the same thing at all. It's just not. And the American people do, in fact, realize this. But alas, now that these people are here, the press is going to kick up a storm. Here's the President of the United States making this clarification after a question from a journalist today.
I want to ask you about South African refugees. Dozens of Afrikaners who claim discrimination in their home country are heading to the United States, right, where your administration is going to welcome them as refugees. Now, this comes as you've halted virtually all refugee admissions for people fleeing famine and war from countries like Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Why are you creating an expedited path into the country for Afrikaners but not others?
Because they're being killed, and we don't want to see people be killed. Now, South Africa leadership is coming to see me, I understand, sometime next week. And, we're supposed to have I guess a G20 meeting there or something, but we're having a G20 meeting. I don't know how we can go unless that situation's taken care of, but it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about, but it's a terrible thing that's taking place, and farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me, but white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa, and the newspapers and the media, television media doesn't even talk about it. If it were the other way around, they'd talk about it. That would be the only story they'd talk about. And I don't care who they are. I don't care about their race, their color. I don't care about their height, their weight. I don't care about anything. I just know that what's happening is terrible. I have people that live in South Africa. They say it's a terrible situation taking place. So we've essentially extended citizenship to those people to escape from that violence and come here.
All right, so this is a very important point that the Trump team has made. Again, that it is a government action against a minority group in the country who is just confiscating the land for perceived ills. And the media cannot stand this. And not only can the media not stand this, but all of the left-wing activists who told us that there's nothing more important than refugees and immigrants, nothing more important at all, no matter who they are, no matter where they come from. You may remember on Inauguration Day of Trump's second administration, Marianne Edgar Budd from the Episcopalian Church, which has the doctrine of a glass of tepid water, gave this sort of sermon lecture to Trump and Vance and others, just reaming the president left and right about begging for mercy, please, Mr. President.
Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops.
There it is.
And clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants.
Mr. President, please have mercy on the slave labor, Mr. President, please. Please, the crop pickers, those brown people, Mr. President, please. Again, the way that the left activists treat illegal immigrants and people who seek migrant status in this country is hilarious. As though the only reason that they are worth keeping in the country is because they are crop pickers and office cleaners and poultry farm workers, which, oh dear God, what a horrible thing to say. Another classic argument from the South in the 1850s and 60s was, well, if we free our slaves, who's going to pick the cotton? So the lovely Episcopalian minister, I use that term as loosely as is humanly possible, Marianne Edgar Budd, well, her Episcopalian church, wouldn't you just know, has announced that they will no longer be working with the U.S. government to help settle refugees in the United States. And crazily enough, in the letter, they overtly state it's because some of the refugees they might be resettling happen to be white. Wow. So here we go. Quote, since January, the previously bipartisan U.S. refugee admissions program, they always say that whenever they want to try to paint some organization as this magical entity that's above all scorn, in which we participate, has essentially shut down. Virtually no new refugees have arrived. Hundreds of staff and resettlement agencies around the country have been laid off, and funding for resettling refugees who have already arrived has been uncertain. Then, just over 2 weeks ago, the federal government informed Episcopal Migration Ministries that under the terms of our federal grant, we are expected to resettle white Afrikaners from South Africa, whom the U.S. government has classified as refugees. Oh, the horror! This isn't the skin tone I was promised. Quote, in light of our church's steadfast commitment to racial justice and reconciliation, and our historic ties with the Anglican Church of Southern Africa, we are not able to take this step. Okay. Fantastic. So again, if the migrants are the right color, then, oh, well, that's the end of the world. You got to resettle them right now. I mean, who cares if he's an MS-13 wife beater who endangered his children and trafficked individuals? I mean, who cares if it's the numerous violent cases of murderers and rapists and abusers? oh, they're brown, so it's really complex. You got to hang on a second. But the minute that it's, well, this family had their farm stripped away from them. Okay, why? What's the context? Well, the group that seized them and sexually abused the teenage women on the farm when they took the farm away said that it was because they were white. Oh, well, is it because, they had apartheid ties from the 90s? No. The crowd is very open about it. They're like, oh, yeah, they're white. So, They took the land because they believed that white people shouldn't be allowed to own land in South Africa. And all of a sudden, the left's like, well, you can't just take those people in. I mean, goodness, their skin's not dark enough. They might have to wear sunscreen. The horror. Okay. By the way, the rest of the Western world is taking one of two approaches. You have Emmanuel Macron, who's busy welcoming every Islamic migrant into the country that he can, up to and including welcoming and in official state visits and greetings, known, open, proud Islamic terrorists. And I mean the guy who's on video decapitating men, women, children. Totally fine for Macron. Keir Starmer, however, has perhaps finally realized that maybe that approach isn't exactly a good idea anymore. Prime Minister of the UK.
These rules become even more important. Without them, we risk becoming an island of strangers, not a nation that walks forward together. So when you have an immigration system that seems almost designed to permit abuse, that encourages some businesses to bring in lower paid workers rather than invest in our young people, or simply one that is sold by politicians to the British people on an entirely false premise, then you're not championing growth, you're not championing justice, or however else people defend the status quo. You're actually contributing to the forces that are slowly pulling our country apart. So yes, I believe in this. I believe we need to reduce immigration significantly.
Oh. Because here's the real point about immigration. I mean, again, those of you out there that are tuning in via radio or via live stream, whatever it is, you don't need me to tell you why unfettered immigration is bad. You understand that the reason immigration either makes or breaks the culture of your country is all due to one magical word: assimilation. Assimilation. When the Ellis Island immigration services were open and people came to ports of entry to enter the United States, they were expected to conjoin to the American way of life. They were expected to learn the culture, to participate in its trade, and to become Americans. They were leaving their old country behind, now to bring their culture as well. Excellent, important, obviously, but they are to assimilate into the United States, to American culture, and support her over everything else. That's not too much to ask. The problem is when you bring people into the country who then wall off neighborhoods to create little Sharia law havens, or who wall off neighborhoods to create little cartel paradises, and say, well, I mean, it's really complex. I mean, look at the color of their skin. Look at how complex that is. No. Absolutely not. And by the way, this point was made most clearly over the last couple of decades by, you guessed it, some of the presidencies in Africa, who pointed out that assimilation into a country's moral culture, compass, and general drive is the most important facet, because otherwise, why would they want you there? It doesn't matter what color you are. What are you going to do once you get here? For the left, all that matters is if you pick the crops and you clean the offices and you do the lower work. But there's far more to building a civilization than whether or not there's somebody in the fields. We're going to be back in a second with Jason Riley to talk about some kind of racial issues in the collegiate university side of things in his new book on the affirmative action myth. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett cast here on the Daily Signal.